Welcome back to Idle Talk. In today's mini, we're going to be on Reddit. And actually, for the next chunk of minis, we're going to be on Reddit. So I'm on the subreddit r2sentence horror. So I'm going to be going through some of the ones that I see. I'm going to sort it by hot. And we're going to see what are the most popular ones. Okay. So first up on the list, we're finally married! Exclamation point. She said as she ties my ropes together. Okay, let's dive into some of the comments on this one. Someone replied, "She really tied the knot with you, huh? I would give you an award, but I'm poor, so take my angry upvote instead." Kinky. Understandable. At last, we can have all the wild sex and holy matrimony. Well, that's one. I guess that's one benefit. Someone replied back, "R2sentence kinky." And the OP said, "How is this kinky? He got kidnapped." Wrong sub. It's 2 sentences kinky. So everybody thinks it's a kinky prompt, kinky sentence. So we're gonna just go to the next one. It says, "Mom, look, we're all wearing the same ghost costume this Halloween," said my little child. "I was paralyzed by shock when hundreds of men dressed in full white with a cross on their shoulder and torches all surrounded our home." That one's kind of crazy. Let's see what the comments say. I hope. Is there any positive things that we can get out this? I said, "Oh, look, the parade is here to pick us up for Cinco de Mayo." Damn, that's crazy. Do they have a lowercase t? I read a Crocs and was confused at first. Oh no. They came to pick up your father. He's running late for his nightly duties in the town. That's crazy. Fortunately, they forgot that they had spilled some gasoline on themselves, and well, the cross wasn't the only thing that got lit. Okay, that's a positive thing to end on for that one. That one was kind of crazy, I'm not gonna lie. The train sputtered and died while rolling into the station. Then something started pulling it backwards. Ooh, that one sounds like a little monster story. Gravity, the engineer, didn't set the brakes again. Our third sentence better. That's so funny. Peter knew the boiler was on the verge of rupturing and was trying to damnedest to remove it from the crowded station. Who's Peter? Spider-Man? Like Spider-Man? Peter Parker? Okay, let's go on to the next one. Some of these comments are about trains, and I don't really give a shit about trains. I'll have to open this one. Okay. As my psychology lecturer asked for volunteers for this semester's conditioning experiment, I shuddered, remembering the painful electric shock I had experienced in the labs last semester. When he rang his little bell to signal the end of class, I lined up with the other volunteers. Someone replied, "Maybe they're just kinky. Is this worse or better? I can't really tell. Hopefully I'll get to be a guard this time." Nah, you're gonna be a prisoner. Someone I know is doing the prison class this year. First thing I thought of was a Stanford experiment. Looking forward to their stories from the class, to be honest. Alright, let's talk about the Stanford experiment, because that's something interesting to talk about. We're gonna go and we're gonna see the about. Mute this so nothing comes out of it. But if you didn't know, the Stanford experiment was originally called the Stanford Prison Experiment, okay? It was a psychological experiment conducted in the summer of 1971. It was a 2-week simulation of a prison environment that examined the effects of situational variables on participants' reactions and behaviors. Stanford University psychology professor Philip Zimbardo led the research team who administered the study. Participants were recruited from the local community with an ad in the newspapers offering $15 per day to male students who wanted to participate in a psychological study of prison life. Volunteers were chosen after assessments of psychological stability and then randomly assigned to being prisoners or prison guards. Critics have questioned the validity of these methods. Those volunteers selected to be guards were given uniforms specifically to de-individuate them, and instructed to prevent prisoners from escaping. The experiment officially started when prisoners were arrested by Rio Palo Alto police. Over the following day, psychological abuse of the prisoners by the guards became increasingly brutal. After psychologist Christina visited to evaluate the conditions, she was upset to see how the study participants are behaving, and she confronted Zimbardo. He ended the experiment on the 6th day. SPE has been referenced and criticized as one of the most unethical psychological experiments in history. The harm inflicted on the participants prompted universities worldwide to improve the ethical requirements for human subjects of experiments to prevent them from being similarly harmed. Other researchers have found it difficult to reproduce the study, especially given those constraints. Critics have described the study as unscientific and fraudulent. So that is the overview of the Stanford Prison Experiment, and in my opinion, I think it's a gray line. I truly believe because just because they gave some guys some uniforms, they started acting out like that, and because people were given these prison garments, they felt the need to leave instantly, right? Because they knew they were innocent. They knew they were getting paid to be there. They knew like they're not actually going to be in jail, so their purpose was to leave, right? So I wonder what would have happened if people have decided to just stay put for the 14 days. Would the mistreatment of these quote prisoners be that brutal, increasingly brutal as the days go by, or would it have just been just a couple of people just like sitting in a room like, all right, you're not going to do nothing? I'm like, no, we're chilling. We're not going to move. We're not going to do anything. And is it, what came first? Was it the prompt to escape and then the quote guards wanted to brutalize them? Or did it become the brutalization that prompted the escape attempts from these quote prisoners? Ultimately, it ending because somebody came to double check, I think was a great call. I mean, that could have just been set it and forget it, right? Just let him run his experiment. We'll see the results afterwards. But I wonder what would have happened if that experiment had lasted the whole 2 weeks that it was supposed to. But that was today's Idle Talk Mini. A little bit two-sentence horror, but I got prompted to talk about this. So I love the Stanford Prison Experiment, and I implore you to watch some YouTube videos on it. It's just an interesting thing to go into. I mean, for me personally, I like this kind of stuff. But yeah, Bayato, link in the description.